It's the Strobo tuner app for iPhone. It's the only tuner I carry around now. We live in the future. I could just start. I'm supposed to wait till some prearranged time. Anyway, so we're working on some new stuff. I'll show you what I'm doing. I hope I can play some. One is the snap. And eventually, maybe I could grab one of those chairs that's not being used. Is that okay? Oh, that's a perfect chair. Thanks, man. I come up with I guess in science they call it pure research, when you're just researching with no real end in sight. Thanks, Jerry. And, right on. Look at that. Professional.
We'll see what happens.
Incredible. Pure research is just when you research for until you find something and then find something you can do with it later on, as opposed to research with a specific thing. So I do a lot of pure research sometimes, where I just find these things that might work somewhere, somehow. A little bit of a... That came out of pure research, and I just started doing that we got together with me, Mike, and Richie, and suddenly a song was born. It works that way. And but the original version of it was way more elaborate. It was a lot of stuff that would... elaborate, wacky, crazy thing. So thankfully, it finally distilled down to... It's way easier to remember. But, so what else are we working on? A lot of picking stuff. So when I turn the low on. That's the picking pattern. That's on 3 strings. It's easy to switch it over to 4. So whenever you do arpeggiating any kind of chord, vary the rhythm. Right now with my amp setup, I don't have the kind of clean tone I really want. It's pretty good, but I'm not really hearing the kind of definition I used to have back in the day when I had all pro audio gear and stuff. So I'm going to do a modification, I think, at some point, just to get that clean tone cleaner. And before I used to have a separate amp for clean high, a high version, and then of course low, separate amp for that, and then I had a separate amp for distortion. So the 3 sounds are coming out of 3 different amps and 3 different speakers. Big pain in the neck though. But now that I think it's not going to be too difficult to, because the top cabin I'm not even using, I could make that the clean thing. I like to keep the distortion a little low so it's not blasting me in the face. And then the low amp is the one underneath the, although speaker is the one underneath the amps. And I have a couple things that I do sound-wise. Right now I've got the distortion off on my signature pedal. When I switch it on, it sounds like this. I'm more likely to get those. called applause begging. Applause begging notes. And now that still has the clean mixed in, which is that kind of cool thing about this pedal, is you can ghost in as much of that thrash. I was talking with somebody about that yesterday, about getting a distortion tone. And you basically, I'll turn the knob up and down so you can see what's happening. The clean never goes away, so it's always there. My particular setup, because I'm split in two, the low pickup in this amp, the high, and amp. Together it makes an actual bass tone. Alone, either one of them is kind of it has its inadequacies. So but the high end, you notice, there's not much low end to that at all. I actually have a crossover. Take all the low end out completely. As I'm sweeping it down, it's going to a lower frequency. But there's no other low frequencies come through, and I'm getting all the lows from this pickup here. So in doing that, it just makes a clarity of what's going on with the bass. When I first started doing the double pickup thing, I took my OP bass, chiseled out a hole, put a Gibson EBO pickup in there. Didn't know how to wire a switch, so I just ran a separate output for it. And my mom had to vacuum up the wood chips on the living room floor of me doing my little wood project on my bass. And so I just ran it into two inputs with two cords. And instead of going with a stereo cable, which would seem to make more sense, if you're on the road somewhere and a cable breaks, it's hard to find a stereo cable. You know, of all the cables in here, I doubt if there's even one stereo cable 1/4-inch jack. There is there is one, and it's about this long. So I'd have to stand right in front of the amp in order to play with it. So eliminating that as much special stuff as possible, two mono jacks just make it way easier. And then I'm going to just play a normal regular bass off of the normal regular pickup. I just plug that into a normal regular amp, and it's a normal thing. On the production models of these, just as this is push-pull for that's how the original EBO pickup had a little switch on it to get that high end out of it. So we put that switch here. It used to go here on some of the originals and on my original P-Bass. But on the production model of these, that same type of switch is also on here. I remove it because I never use it in this fashion, but you can, when you lift it up, not that one, this one, both pickups go to one output. So you want just a normal regular thing with the extra pickup on there and turn it up and down as you please. Because I try to make stuff, because what I do is pretty specialized, and I know it's not really going to meet everyone's needs by a long shot. So I try to make it so it can be used by anybody in any kind of situation, no matter what kind of style they're playing or what kind of amp they're using. But if they want to expand upon it, they can too, and add more, do more crazy nonsense and stuff like that. And let me see, what else? Gear-wise, any other questions gear-wise? Yes, sir, right over there by the way.
So I've seen tons of times where you talked about your gear and whatever. I always hear a flanger. I swear I hear a flanger there. But it's mostly because I think it's because of modulation of the two signals that you're pulling together, and one is kind of canceling the other out in some way.
Yeah, I'm sure there are phase cancellations. Generally, they happen everywhere all the time. You try to live without them as much as possible. That's one of the reasons why I use the 410 cabinet on the lows and the 15 on highs, which sounds backwards. And anytime I go to do a clinic, they always got the 410 on the top, the 15 on the bottom. Nope, take it apart, we got to change it all over again. Now the reason being, back in the day I used all JBL Pro Audio, BGW power amps, Pro Audio high-end compression, Spectrasonics compression. It was a company that, not the same Spectrasonics we have today, it's a software company, but these brilliant audio stuff, flat from 0 to 100,000 cycles, is crazy overkill. Especially since I had my dog whistle on my iPhone, want to see how high I could hear, and nothing over 10,000 cycles. I was like, what, is it on? I can't even hear it from standing in front of this shit for so long, and that's how deaf I am. So the Pro Audio gear wasn't necessary, but I noticed that with the 15s, with all the surface area of the speaker, you get a real sweet high end. It gets sweet. With the 410s, it gets peaky and sharp and bitey, and you know, it just, to me, it's bright. Not all the time. Sometimes I'd use them when there was nothing else around. I managed to EQ that out of there. But using the 410 for the low frequency, because there's inherent phase anomalies, if you will. You're gonna, that sine wave that is that bass, now you're gonna get little artifacts with it, and it just makes it richer and gives you more. And I can't hear the phase differentials, but I know it's there because just the physics of it. No two transducers are the same, no two speakers, no two mics. You know, they can graph them out, they look pretty darn close, but you'll see something that's not right. So and your original question was about the phasing. Yeah, so for a little while I actually bought one of the Eventide, because back in the day I used to use a 910 harmonizer, split my clean signal at 1 amp right and 1 amp left, and put it out like just as the one was flashing on the juice, just a little bit out of tune with the other, so you get the really cool phasing effect. It was great because I'm in the middle of the two and it's behind me, and it sounds like it's 20 feet wide. It was really cool. But I removed that from my system years ago.
How long ago?
Oh
Was
God!
it during Mr. Big Time, or was it before that?
You say again?
David Lee Roth?
Oh, that was all there with Dave. Yeah, that was all BGW Pro Audio. And then in the late 80s, I went with Ampeg and used Ampeg gear, and I started to cut down. For the most part, I used the Ampegs initially as just power amps and used their cabinets. And I actually used Ampeg 15s for the highs. You see any photos of me at the time. The 810 bottoms along the bottom, and then 15s on top. So I was still using 15s for high. And Hartke now makes a hybrid speaker with half paper, half metal, which sounds pretty good and tight, but it's still got that little ping of metal in there that kind of throws me. A couple times, like I think in India or in Indonesia, they didn't have the paper cones, so these are all paper cones, and I had to use them. It actually sounded great, but I will probably switch to that at some point. But yeah, there's probably a little bit of...
It just depends on the temperature. If you're playing something faster, I can start to hear phasing happening, and I'm wondering if it's...
Yeah, there's no device doing it. It's probably just happening.
Yeah.
And all that's coming out of one speaker, but it's also coming out of the PA. So if there's any motion between you hearing that and that, there would be a little bit of a thing. And I haven't really gone through the system and really hardcore checked out a phase of everything. Even on the bass, this might be somehow out of phase, I'm not sure. But there's a couple of little labs makes a phase thing you can actually dial in. If anything's a little bit out, you can pop it in, so there's always a tool for that. But like I said, I tried to get the Eventide, their new little box. It's supposed to emulate the 910, but it was impossible to figure out, and to program it and use it, it was really, really difficult. So I ended up taking it back. Thank goodness for Guitar Center. Just take it back and get your money back, no problem. So that was cool. And then I bought a little, just a roll-in delay, just to delay the signal a little bit to get it doubled up. Because whenever you get those little sine waves, and you delay, you get them paralleling each other, and it just gets thicker. So just that little, but not enough of a delay that you could hear the slap. Just enough, like super tight. Because I notice when I'm recording, and sometimes you hear both signals, the signal that goes through all the digital processing and then the original also. There's this cool little out of phaseness that really makes it pop. I want to try and imitate that, but I have not been successful at it yet. So one of these days. Yes, sir.
How do you get the mix of the two pickup sound for each song, you know?
Say again.
How do you do the mix for
The mix.
Wow.
The mix is, the good thing about it is the mix is here. So if I'm playing and I have to, I'll be sitting up and standing. Okay. Sitting down and standing up. What I meant. It's basically the mix happens on the bass. Now if it's starting to distort or feedback or go crazy or something. So let's go. So I can take it way down so it's not distorting at all. I'll turn the distortion off too if I really want to get serious. And I got a couple different options. I can do quiet, almost a thing that get this up really distorted. Take this up, like in the dying, when we first start. The super deep low end. It's just kind of a sine wave. There's not much harmonic onto it. If I want to, I can pull that up a little more treble. Hear more of the note. So now that underneath this distortion changes the character of it as well. So we got. So it's a little subtle variation you can do. It's great because you can do it all here. I don't have to really jump back. The only time I jump back, because I don't like running a cable out here, all precariously way out. It's when on a huge stage, so the thing's going to go way out there, and then way back. So I'm sending my bass signal way out and way back, so it's precarious to me. So I got an octave box. Rather than lug around a 5-string bass, I can get that. It's an EBS octave down below the A note. It doesn't really work too well, but you still get, especially we do a little solo in "My Love Is Alive." It's the name of the song. Controversy. I'm trying to remember the name of that song. And but I do a little solo because on the record there's this like super deep synth solo sound, so I kind of mimic it with the bass by doing that low octave down box, little EBS box. And it works great. It's really great. It's one of my favorite ones. There's a bunch around. They're probably all comparable, but this one I have. Like, but yeah, you can do the mixing on here, which is fantastic. So I can make changes on the fly. And basically, when I'm just pounding away with Mike, everything's on full. Both are on, yeah. Then if I like in a song, like when it gets quiet, I'll turn the distortion off, like for regret, and I'll. Still hear that. You'll still hear harmonic content, but you get that, crazy ass distortion thing. And then, one other thing I wanted to point out too that I'm using a lot. Usually, unless you're standing right in front, you can't see is the. Let me get them right here. Wait. There's the winery dog. Tough crowd. So these Keith McMillan 12-step, I had a couple of years ago. I called this guy Keith McMillan because he made a little flat piece with 8 things on it. It was only about this thick and this big, and it was a MIDI controller. And for years I've used Taurus pedals. Actually, I used the Roland version, which is a MIDI 12 notes you step on with an extra low end or whatever special effect you're going to do. Mr. Big, I use him for the flute part in Promise for the Moon. I play the da 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 da. I play the flute with my feet, which in real life is not easy. But so I had, but that was big and heavy, and I had to take 2 in case one went down. We're flying in. It's costing. We had gear to fly one time on an Aer Lingus flight, and it's random what they're going to charge you, and all our gear and luggage, they wanted $15,000 to put it on the plane. We got them down to about 8,000, and then we're in Indonesia putting our stuff on a flight. And the lady behind the counter, she just wanted a picture with the band, and she put everything out for free. So it's wildly variable. But rather than getting stuck somewhere with a huge amount of money to have to pay to get your stuff on the plane, and you can't do the show without it, and they know that, that's why they got a gun to your head. So I wanted a smaller one, so I had one custom made. I tweeted about it. It's about this thick, about this wide, about this long, 12 on-off emergency stop buttons. on, off. And then I had them just, got wired up so that it was MIDI on, MIDI off. So you step on it, there's the note, take your foot off, the note goes away. Real easy, nothing more to it. But I can only play one note at a time. Unless I change the sound source to add a fifth or an octave or something like that. But doing chords was really tough, and I wanted to try and find some way, there's got to be a way, MIDI-wise, that I can step on one thing and get a chord somewhere else. And there is now a couple things, but for years it was just nothing. I researched Google and everything, MIDI chord, single note chord, nothing. So I talked with Keith, and I said, can you move those little things on your little 8-switch thing around to in the formation of a keyboard? So I could step on that, and there would be a keyboard, a little lightweight thing. He goes, no, you can't, because there's a circuit board underneath where they're placed. They're hardwired in, so I'd have to do a whole new circuit board. I can't do it. So I started talking about it, explaining what I was doing and everything. We had a great talk. He's a wonderful guy. And a couple months go by, I get a phone call. Hello, hey, Billy, it's Keith. I go, yeah, what's going on? He goes, I did it. Did what? I made it. He made it. He made what I asked him for. And it does do chords. He made it so in the software you can go in, program any note to do any chord you want, any note to do any note you want, trigger any sample, any sound, anything. It basically will do anything. And it's a little microscopic thing. It's taped down now. You can come take a look at it later. It's this big, this thick, like that, and it's everything. So now in Regret, pulls off the piano to go to the guitar solo, viola. I mean, voila! We got our sound there. Works pretty good, and it also works great for just endings. You're doing like a big ending, and you want to hit some giant notes. I got it set up so I can hit this. Just a big fat, you can't really even hear now. It's a subsonic. I'll get it up a little higher. The big ending note. That big giant note on it. Normally it's much louder than that, of course, just for demonstration purposes. And it's really, really handy. So a lot of people are getting them, and it's only about $200. And for guitar players too, if you want to do that one little extra thing, you got it there. Keyboard players are using it too, where they got both hands working. They can do all kinds of stuff with it. Plus you can run it, if you run it on the software, the main stage software from Apple, it will automatically change all the programs, automatically change all the sounds. It's, we do live in the future. Yes, sir?
That foot keyboard thing, did you use that on the recording, or was there another piano track?
On the record?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's Richie really playing. But the impossibility when you're doing a record, the piano keeps going, and then he starts soloing. You can't play both at once, so that comes in, feet to the rescue. Yes, sir.
Are there any other songs on the record that you or in the set that you use that?
Yeah, I use it. I think in the solo on the Dying, there's a. It's funny because I got to think, singing, bass, foot, note, patch, on, off, nub. Ah! So you really stretch yourself out there. So sometimes I got to really rehearse being able to get to it, get back from it, something. But it's a great addition. Yes, sir.
You definitely got all the cool toys.
What's that?
You definitely have all the cool toys.
Oh, the toys are great. And the sound source is just a little inexpensive Roland Sonic Cell, it's called. It's got a zillion little sounds. You can edit them all out. You can do piano, strings. I did a lot of my Mr. Big program is still in here. So the flute's got to go up a couple octaves though. I'm not sure if I can. Let me see if I can do this. No, not that. No, not that. No, not that. Come on. I'll try that. I don't think it's going to work though, but it's... So a little flute part I could do, so I could just do it all. I forgot the notes. It's a... I forgot how it goes, but I swear it's in there. And you can adjust the sound of everything and use whatever you want. Use a more expensive synthesizer, you know, anything MIDI, any sound source MIDI, it'll run. It's really a great thing, addition to the whole thing. Yeah. You were asking more?
I did. Yeah, I had one other question.
Sure.
Because I've never seen anybody else play bass like you. Like, it's a very incredible technique. I'm wondering, how did you develop that yourself, just from influences and collaborating?
Yeah, just thank you very much. But it was just a, in a way, it was kind of like the Galapagos Islands, living in Buffalo. So I had this my own little thing there, and did all this. I didn't know that, because remember when I first started, you're not supposed to play chords on bass. So I can't do that now. You know, so and I played in a bar every single night. We did 21 nights in a row one time. We did 3 full shows in one day. We just constant live playing, and you start to get hybridized. You start moving your hands differently, just to break the tedium and boredom of playing the bar scene sometimes, and listening to non-bassists, piano players, sax players, a lot of classical music, learning a lot of Bach stuff, which is done on cello or viola, which is tuned in fifths. This is tuned in fourths, so you know the moves are you know really far across the neck. On the cello, it's just this string here. On the bass, it's this note here. You know, so it's learning things like that, and it just kind of developed over the years. And everyone has the same thing. I think I don't know, with the average amount of time, everyone in this room, how long you've played. It's I would guess probably the average would be maybe 4 or 5 years of everybody in here. Some guys that have played 30, and some guys that have played for a couple of months. So that's not a lot of time. I forget what it is. It's a 10,000 hour rule. You might hear that talked about. But I'm at about 25,000 hours now, so it kind of moves beyond that. And very kind of you to say, and I appreciate you observing something like that. But yeah, it's just there's so many years, there's so many things in different bands and different genres. When I first started, we were playing Beatles and Stones and Doobie Brothers, and then went on to heavier stuff and more complicated stuff, and then back to more rock, and then back to AC/DC, and then over to Van Halen, and you know, progressive stuff, all kinds of styles. You know, so years and years and years of that eventually leads up to, you know, all the wacky, crazy nonsense. You know that, and a lot of it is also doing it live in front of people. People do hear with their eyes sometimes, and I explain like the. I could do it like that. It's way better. You know, it's better. You know, so it's just more fun, and to have fun on stage, just to have those things, especially playing with Mike, because Mike is just a great showman, and he's having a blast. You see him. Most people really have seen Mike a lot that are here at this camp, and that's great. He's having a riot. For me as a bass player, to work with a drummer like that is so cool, because he's moving and shaking. Sometimes I can just kind of hold things down for him. Do your thing, bro. Come on. And a lot of times I'll go over to the bass drum and just lock in with that, do exactly what the bass drum is doing. And it's a lot of fun. So all these variations are a variation on playing like that, which is perfectly legitimate, to doing my Cirque du Soleil version.
Are there any other instruments that you started before that?
I played guitar, but just folk acoustic guitar. My first song I learned, of course, was Gloria by Shadows of Night, and I think everyone's first song. And just basic, you know, Well-Respected Man by the Kinks, simple songs. But then when I got the bass, I started working on lines. Years later, I went back to the guitar and started actually figuring out how to play some of that stuff, because I can't do on guitar what I do on bass. This is all based mostly on finger picking. But I can get a pick and fake my way through sounding like I might, you know, there's a bunch of notes are coming out, and some of them might be right. You know, but my guitar playing is more kind of like a Neil Young than Ed Van Halen. That's for darn sure. I mean, I love Neil Young, but it's not a real advanced playing. But I write a lot on guitar, and that's why writing on bass is a little different, because to play bass and sing is a bear. It's tough. We toured with Rush Mr. Big, a bunch of tours. We did the whole Presto tour and some of the Roll of Bones tour, and became good friends with those guys. And I'm, you know, in case you don't know, they're some of the finest, most generous, incredible people I've ever known. They're just wonderful guys. And Getty was telling me that before a tour, sometimes he's got to go in, you know, rehearsals and figure out how to sing and play that stuff, because it's tough. You can do it, but sometimes you got to really work out how your mind is going to wrap itself around that particular thing. And so that's always a little difficult. So, but on guitar, strumming, I can sing and play all day on guitar. It's no problem. You know, it's just because this hand's just doing this, no problem. Or when it's doing all that wacky stuff, I do not have enough brain power to split myself in two for that. Yes, sir, in a red shirt.
I noticed like when you're playing, you do a bunch of like tapping and stuff. Do you ever play on the Chapman stick at all?
No, when the Chapman stick first came out, I was really intrigued by it because I was doing a lot of that stuff. But it was tuned in an odd way. It was tuned like a reverse. I'm not even sure how it was tuned. But it was not tuned EADG or fourths, or tuned like a guitar with fourths and then a flatted B and E string, or B and E string that aren't in fourths. So it just right away I was worried that I'm gonna have to relearn every pattern I ever knew before in order to make it work. So I didn't get into the stick. But that's another thing I'm working on lately is this. Which is going back and forth. So in a fast burst of notes, sometimes when me and Richard do a little trit out, a little extra thingy there to do. So I've been doing, I let tapping go for a while because it became so popular it became cliche, which is one of the reasons why I never got into slapping so much, because everybody just got jumped on that bandwagon so bad. I wanted to differentiate myself from them. Great, slapping is awesome and cool and fabulous. I can fake my way through it a little bit, but that's not my specialty. So I try to make a left turn. When everybody goes right, I want to go the opposite way. Did you have your hand up, sir? Or you?
No.
Okay. Somebody had that? Yeah, back there in the blue. How you doing, bro? Speak up. I got a fan here. I can't hear you.
I've been working on your the right three finger
Yeah.
technique. You know, just basically getting it. I understand, but getting the left hand, it's like I'm thinking so much about the right and.
Yeah, it's ability to split yourself up.
You just gotta split.
Like, you know, a simple like